This is gonna be a pretty fucking great episode. And if you might have noticed, I kind of changed it up a little bit, so there will be the intro now in the beginning, because it is an intro, and so it would make a little bit more sense. So the intro is now in the beginning of the episode, and you can see that there's actually a light that's directly pushing into my fucking face, and I somehow feel like, I don't know, like an actor, or I just at least think they're just gonna feel like this, but I do remember to turn on my lights. But yeah, I think it's pretty fucking great that I have some sort of a, softbox right next to me now. Why softbox? Because I've actually put, I don't know what this is actually called. It's a tissue, a paper tissue. It is a paper tissue. I don't fucking know. But if you tear it apart, this certain thing, so the people that are just on the video right now do have something to see. On the podcast, I'm very sorry, but I think it's a paper tissue. So the product you're using to clean your nose when you just get all these somehow dirty things out of it. I don't fucking know what this is actually called, but I do not. Yeah, never mind. So if you tear this thing apart, you get one part of it will be some sort of a more heavy element, and another part of it will be something that's very, very light and very just somehow transparent, but not completely. So with this certain, just, how should I call it, part of this product, you can actually just somehow break the light so that it's not directly. I can actually show you. So this is it without the paper tissue above it. So I can show you. This is like this, and you can't see me through it, but it's very, very, very thin, and this actually enables me to break the light, and that I'm some sort of getting a little softer light, because if it is too hard, I somehow feel like, this is not just, too nice to look at. But hello, welcome to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. Yeah, this is it. Now I'm here. I do hope that everything is working quite fine, and because I'm still just, trying to get the production value up, all the fucking time, so that it's actually somehow something that's incredibly good. And I think with the light itself, it actually got way better, and I can just do so much more things with the actual software that I'm using. So therefore, yeah, I hope that how everything is, how the production is quite fine. I'm pretty pumped to be here, even though it feels somehow very, very different because of the light, but only because of the light. This is the funny thing about it. It's actually the darkest. Yeah, you can see the screen. Never mind. So yeah, but we will go through Rework again, which is a book about, business and, being a leader and a lot of other things, and especially products, how you should make your products and what you have to just, keep attention to if you're actually creating or making your own product. And I think it's definitely a very, very great book and a great, summary as well, because I do have to say that often there are books that are just great. But the problem is when a summary isn't great, I do kind of feel like the book itself isn't great as well. But it doesn't have to be necessarily the case, because, for example, How to Win Friends and Influence People has often very, very shitty summaries. They're just only like the principles that get taught in the book, which is fine. It makes sense that you only pick them out and present them to the people. But the problem there is that they actually do not get the whole story. And the whole story and the whole kind of product or the whole kind of package of this certain, book is, what makes for me the difference. And this was quite, the thing that really made it special for me and made it so valuable for me, because it is a valuable and very, very good book. But yeah, never mind. Let's go on with Be Productive, Avoiding Interruptions. And I do think they're now going into productivity, which is definitely something that I do think a lot of people lack. And I'm just seeing it's an incredibly long and detailed book summary. And this is what I deeply like about the paulminus.com website, because he always does this. He always just makes so great book summaries and so detailed ones that you actually can be sure that you can get a lot out of it, a lot out of the summary and a lot out of the book, because it is, as I said before, not only the principles or not only somehow the tactics that got just explained in the book, but you get a real story out of it, which is totally great. Not just seeing, yeah, like this it's working. The productivity, I kind of lost it. Productivity, avoiding interruptions. Fried and Heinemann Hansen explained that interruptions are the enemy of productivity. Countless works find themselves wondering why they are working overtime, and work is creeping into the weekends. It probably isn't because there is too much work to be done. It is more likely because you're not getting the work done during work hours due to interruptions. And every phone call, meeting, email, or someone asking you questions interrupt your workflow and sets you back. The authors explain that you should really focus on getting into a work zone alone and for long periods of time. Dedicate this time to being your most productive. I do think this is totally right, because it is often the case, and I cannot deny it, that, for example, your phone rings or you really get an email or somebody asks you, it really gets you out of your focus. And just, I somehow read something about it. I don't know if it's actually true, but it seems to take, I think, 25 minutes until you actually get into this focus place again. And sometimes, for example, if you're tired and, it was a hard day, you might not even be able to get into this kind of focus again, because you were interrupted and because somebody thought like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck him, I'm gonna interrupt him. No, I don't know that, too many people are so kind of, negative, I'd say. But getting into that zone takes time and requires avoiding interruptions. It's like the REM sleep. You don't just go directly into REM sleep, you go to sleep first and then make your way to REM. Any interruptions force you to start over, and just as REM, it is, or REM, which is rapid eye movement, which is, the kind of time when you're sleeping and your eyes actually are moving rapidly, which is actually the case. And I think this is actually the time where we actually regenerate and we just, somehow rest. The other part of the sleep is actually like pretty much only laying there, I guess. And the funny thing is that animals like dolphins do actually not have a REM sleep phase, because they would actually drown if it was the case. And actually, I was just really interested in if just fish and dolphins and other actual livings or creatures that actually need oxygen, if they even sleep. Because I was actually thinking like, if they sleep, wouldn't they drown? And so they do not have a REM sleep. And I do not know if that has some health issues correlated to it. But yeah, I do think they anyway, they're gonna not live as long as humans are. But yeah, so just as REM is when the real sleep magic happens, the alone zone is where the real productivity magic happens, which is totally true, and I feel it as well. When you're in your zone and when you're really into your workflow and you're just having only the work in your mind and only the productivity in your mind, or just what you're doing in your mind, you're so productive. And I just really love these periods of time where there's just nothing in my head but what I'm doing at the moment. And it's just so wonderful. I do think it just feels great. And I wouldn't say that it's only with work like this. So I'm not getting into this zone. I'm not getting into this kind of obsession, maybe even only through work or only through, whatever, but also through doing sports or through doing activities that I think I'm passionate about. Because I do think it's hard to say, but I kind of feel like you can't get into this certain workflow if you really, really hate the work you're doing. I do think that, the only thing that you will be focusing is actually getting out of work, not actually the work itself. So at least for me, it would make sense that actually people, would feel like this. So meetings, and again, meetings. It is so common for your working day to be filled with numerous meetings, and meetings are infamous for going over time, and you often walk out without a complete solution. Fried and Hyam and Hansen point out that a 1 hour meeting for 10 people isn't actually 1 hour of wasted time, it is 10 hours of wasted time. They want you to ask yourself if the meeting is really worth 10 hours of paid working time before you commit. When meetings are needed, they suggest you consider the following things. I do get what they say, which is totally the case. If you're kind of the CEO of a company and you do have a meeting with, 10 of your employees and, the other people, then you're actually, practically wasting 10 hours of time if it is really a shitty meeting. If it's a great meeting, it is nothing like wasted time, because meetings, I would say, are pretty important. I've quite never had one, I guess, to some degree maybe, but I do feel like having a one-to-one conversation with someone is just essential, for making more business or doing more business with other people. You do just have to get up to them and just, talk to them, I'd say. But I would also think like there are so many meetings where just, as I said, there's no quite solution to the real problem. And this then is quite fucked up, I'd say, because then you really somehow waste your time, even though I do have to say that it's not like there's a meeting and there was no solution in the meeting. It is automatically just a wasted time. I wouldn't say so, because you sometimes need more than one meeting to actually get to a solution, and it just has to build up. Which means for me, the first meeting was somehow, maybe it was somehow wasted time, but it is the base for all the other meetings that you will have, and it may be the base for all the great businesses you will do, or the great business you will do with a lot of other people. And so therefore at the end, through the compound interest, I'd actually say, you will get to a certain place, and you will get to a great place only through this one meeting, which, may eventually would have been a waste of time. Long story short, just, I think do all the meetings. But there are tips how you should actually decide whether you should take a meeting or make a meeting or have a meeting, or actually not. So stick to a time frame, set a time or something, set a timer actually or something, but once the time is up, leave. I think that's pretty tough, because I think sometimes in meetings you will get to a point where there's just such a great flow and you do not really want to break up the whole conversation, or maybe you will just come up to the point of actually making the business or making the deal or making the sale. And then if you're gonna leave, it wouldn't be that that kind of smart to do. Have as few people at the meeting as possible. The more people, the more likely you are to get off topic. Makes sense, because the more people there are, the more opinions there are, and the more just thoughts and desires and kind of experience there is. Start with an agenda and stick to it. Open the meeting with a specific problem you aim to solve, and that is the purpose of this meeting. Don't be general, and end the meeting with a clear solution, and ensure that the people responsible for enacting this solution are aware of the next steps. Great points, I'd say. Great points. Yeah, I especially like the fourth one, which is open the meeting with a specific problem you aim to solve. Like, I kind of really think that, and I do think this is something that happened to me as well, but it wasn't like in a meeting scenario. It was rather in a scenario when I was just talking to a colleague of mine, when I'm just having to do, have to work in pairs on a project, on a design project. And at the end, we kind of wasted an hour or 2 hours or even 3 hours only talking about shit that was actually not the real thing that we wanted to talk about, or, which somehow get off topic. And I do think if you just really make sure that you're gonna just talk about this certain thing that you should be talking about in the beginning of the whole meeting, I'd say you won't get off topic that easily. I know, during a meeting you will eventually somehow drift away or something, but you can somehow just push yourself again onto this straight line. Momentum. Momentum is absolutely key in the business world. It drives your motivation, and without motivation, you aren't likely to get very far. Even though, I'm sorry for not showing you, it is so different that there's actually a light right now, but I'm so happy for it, because I do somehow really feel that this is just, really, that it is really improving the quality of the videos. And which was actually something that I've been kind of thinking about for pretty a long time, because, the camera that is in the MacBook isn't that great, especially not when there's, low light and there's practically only the light above me. Then the camera quality is actually very, very shit. But I do now know that through this little light there is, and it's actually very, very just small. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 by 8 LEDs, which, the small little LED things. It is only that big. It's like, I don't know how many inches. Maybe the half of my finger times my whole finger. So it's very, very, very small, but still it just really is, very bright, to be really honest. But it's really good, because through the light, the camera has it more easy to actually somehow see me. And so the quality overall is just improving, to make it a little shorter. So momentum is definitely important. But what I want to say is that I'm always some kind of debating with myself about whether motivation is actually something that you need. I do think, you somehow need motivation, because motivation to me somehow shows me that you're actually somehow passionate about the thing you're doing, because there is something different than motivation, because there's also discipline, and discipline is something completely different than motivation. But still, I'd say, if you have the right discipline, you will still do some things that you're not motivated about, because you have the discipline. The problem there is, if you're not motivated but you still have the discipline, this might be something that's not worthwhile, but you will still do it. And so therefore I would actually say, okay, if you want to get further and if you want to just get successful or get rich, I do think you need discipline. But I also think, because it would just hopefully do the things that would work in your environment or would work on the market. But the thing is, I do not know if you just will get happy by doing this, which is, for me at least, the very, very most, most important factor of my life is my happiness. And if I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, because I have, such great discipline, because I don't know what the fuck. But I think, discipline is even stronger than your motivation. Fried and Hyman Hansen emphasize the importance of building momentum by finishing one task and moving on to the next as soon as possible. They describe the process as quick wins. There is nothing worse than working on a project that feels like it's never ending. You eventually lose all your motivation and want to give up. And therefore, it is important to break tasks down so you can have quick wins. Give yourself a sense of accomplishment and then move on to the next thing. Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. And I'd say this is one of the best advices I've ever gotten, in the productivity space, because it makes sense. It makes sense that if you're having such a great task, great in terms of, such a big task, you might get somehow lost in the whole task, because it is so big and you somehow seem not to progress. And progression and having those quick wins, or small wins, as they say, I don't actually say quick wins, but for me, they are small wins. These are actually the things that will, will let you stay driven, and they will let you stay motivated, because you somehow feel like, you're progressing, you're moving on. There is something, you're doing, because I feel like, if I'm doing something that is so big, I somehow feel like, I'm not doing anything because I'm not seeing the progress. But if you're really just breaking it down to such small pieces, which is actually also great advice if you are, actually trying to pursue a goal or pursue a dream, or you're making a goal or you're setting a goal, is that you actually break it down to such a small piece that you can do it right now, even though your end goal might be even in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 11 years even. You just break it down to such a small percentage or such a small piece that you actually can just, act on this certain dream or this certain goal right now. And this for me kind of really was also one of the best advices I've ever got, the best things and best thoughts I've ever read about. But yeah, just having quick wins is something important. So maybe you just, break up your thing and just see that you get in your quick wins. So keep in mind that the obvious solution might very well be quitting. People automatically associate quitting with failure, which is something I absolutely hate. But sometimes that's exactly what you should do. If you already spent too much time on something that wasn't worth it, walk away. You can't get the time back. The worst thing you can do is waste even more time. And this is actually true, and this is actually something that I always thought about quitting, like, all the people out there in the self-development and motivational space kind of think about, it is failure and it is bad and it's something you should never ever do. But that's not true, and that's completely shit. Completely. There's just nothing true about it. I do understand it to the degree they mean it, because they somehow mean like, if you're doing something and you're liking it, but it is hard and or tough, just push through the tough times, because there will be eventually a bright day. And it is true, if it is really something is worthwhile doing, just push through, even though it is very, very, very tough to do. Just push through, and yeah, you will get to your goal. But if it is really something, the return is something you absolutely hate, or it won't get you something back, or the return itself is just really shit, why are you doing it? Why are you even just trying to get to it? If you just know, okay, what you will get at the end of your whole journey is something you don't like, it wouldn't make any sense. And I would just really suggest you to go through the dip. I actually suggested it once, I think, also in one of these episodes, so one of the Rework episodes. Go through not Rework, the dip, so D-I-P, D like Dora, I like I, and P like Peter. And I've actually made a video on it, but you can also just search for a summary. It was I think it was actually also on the paulminers.com website. So check this one out. It was incredibly also detailed, and it really got me to another thinking and another place, I'd say. Don't make estimations. We've all learned the hard way that the estimates are not always accurate. It is all to say to estimate that a certain task will take 1 hour of your time, only to find that 3 hours later you are still working on the same task, and the other 2 things you plan to do in that time haven't even been started. A couple of ways to combat this is to break big tasks into smaller tasks. Fried and Hyman and Hanson recommend doing this because the smaller a task is, the easier it should be to estimate the time it will take. And it makes sense. And I'm not trying in my head to just somehow figure out how I could actually use the things that they say, how I could actually break these things down to really small pieces. And I somehow think that I'm already doing it. Because, for example, the posts themselves, they really take a long period of time. All the posts that I'm posting every single day on whether it's Instagram, whether it's, Facebook and all the other platforms. And I do now see that I just somehow fucked it up. Because I didn't remember the post. Unfortunately, I think everything is fine. I think it's fine. I should have posted on Instagram because Instagram is somehow broken today, and it even was yesterday, unfortunately. And so I do have to manually post everything, which is a fucked up thing. It is totally fucked up, and I just really don't like to do it, because it takes up so much, brain power, I would even say. Even though it sounds very stupid, but it takes so much time to actually go manually into your app, because if you're posting it, the posts through your PC, they won't get recognized at all. Nobody sees them. It's just incredible. I do not know what the algorithm there is doing, but somehow, the posts that I'm posting through my phone actually somehow get more engagement than posts that than all the other kind of ways I can post the things. But yeah. But nevertheless, I just have to see nothing. I'm just going on with the summary. So keep breaking your time frames down into smaller chunks. Instead of one 12-week project, structure it as 12 one-week projects instead of guesstimating at tasks that take 30 hours or more. Break them down into more realistic 6 to 10 hour chunks, then go one step at a time. Similarly, don't write yourself lengthy to-do lists that never get completed. When your list is too long, you will likely cross off the first few things, but by the time you've done them, you've added to the list. But by the time you've done them, you've added to the list, and it is even more. What the fuck? You've added to the list, and it is even more overwhelming. Fried and Hyman Hansen strongly recommend keeping your list shorter, be realistic, and if you only have 10 items on your list, and you get one done, you have done 1% of the work. I just have to go through it as, once again. So similarly, don't write yourself lengthy to-do lists that never get completed. When your first list is too long, you will likely cross off the first few things, but by the time you've done them, you've added to the list. And it is even more overwhelming. It doesn't make any sense, I'd say. Never mind. So Fried and Hyman Hansen strongly recommend keeping your lists shorter. Be realistic. If you only have 10 items on your list and you get one done, you've done 10% of the work, which makes sense totally, because it's 1/10 of the work, which is 10%, which is 0.1. But yeah. But I'd say it totally makes sense to have smaller projects. Not only in terms of actually having the feeling of, okay, I'm doing more because it is smaller and because it's somehow boosting your productivity, as we found out above in the article actually. But also, I really do think if you have 3 tasks and you're actually, really focusing on these 3 tasks, you will just, complete them. It always comes up to. Well, I just want to say it always comes up to, which tasks they are, because they actually said, have, a lot smaller tasks and not very big tasks, so you get, the quick wins and whatsoever. But if you're doing this and if you're writing all of them down, I do first of all think, at least for me, I will totally forget to cross them out. I will totally, forget to do this. And I'd also say that you will get overwhelmed. And I do believe in this. And I do believe that you're really getting overwhelmed if you're having such a long list. And it makes sense because, if there's only 3 things on your just lists or just, 10 things, I do think that you would, that you would even like to work more on the list with 3 things than on the list with 10 things. Because you're somehow feeling like, what? It is so much work and there is so much to do and I don't know where to begin, and all these things. It makes sense to me. It makes sense. But yeah, I really, really, really hope that you've gotten something out of this episode. Actually gonna end this one and gonna eat something because I'm feeling right now okay. I'm feeling dizzy. I'm feeling strange and I just have to eat something. And I'm also noticing my voice going away. So yeah, I hope you get the best health, wealth, happiness, and success. The best. If there's even a best, I don't fucking know, but I just wish you the best. But do not forget to, think about how other people will remember you, not because of the sake of, actually giving a fuck what other people think about you, but how you just want to be remembered. Do you really want to be remembered as a bad person, or do you want to be remembered as a good person? A philanthropist, or as someone who was just fucking with a lot of people only just to make a lot of money? Just hypothetically, or just a metaphor, never mind. And think about your legacy, but it's somehow, the same. I'll see you. There will be another episode today, so this is actually for today, for Sunday. There will be another one today. I hope you're watching this as well. I'll see you. No joking. I'll see you.